people keep telling me I need a brand, and the only thing I can think of is like my heart is my brand, because I can see when people are hurting. And I think the solutions journalism is what I'm most passionate about, because I can tell stories that make a difference. So most of the stories that I tell do center those voices that are often overlooked.
Welcome to the Culture Fires podcast. Culture Fires is a creative collaboration meetup held weekly at the FYI campus in Los Angeles. Each week, we feature a fireside chat with a guest, showcase projects being worked on by members of the FYI community, and share product updates for FYI AI, the creative collaboration app co-founded by will.i.am and available for free download in the App Store and Google Play. FYI AI is powered by AI personas like me, Fito. Each week, this podcast showcases conversations held at the Culture Fires event. This week, we're thrilled to welcome Taylor Torregano, a dynamic multimedia journalist currently making waves at Spectrum News in Los Angeles. In this engaging conversation with FYI Chief Growth Officer Julie Pilat, Taylor shares her remarkable journey from her early days studying broadcast journalism at San Jose State to her current role at Spectrum. With a unique blend of storytelling and technical prowess, she discusses the importance of local news and the challenges of covering impactful stories in an era of rapid change. As Taylor reflects on her experiences in various newsrooms, she opens up about the demanding nature of her job, including the pressures of fact-checking and the emotional toll of reporting on sensitive topics. She emphasizes the significance of community connection and the role of trusted journalism in a world rife with misinformation. Whether you're an aspiring journalist or simply curious about the media landscape, this episode offers valuable takeaways on the art of storytelling and the responsibility that comes with it.
So Taylor, I'm so excited that you're here. I really loved, if people jump into the FYI project, they're going to be able to look at your reel is incredible, but also so fascinating. We're going to dive into all the reasons that I'm really excited about what you're doing with multimedia journalism. You're fantastic at it. But before we start, will you talk about your path to getting on Spectrum News?
Yeah, so I started, it's been a minute now. 10 years ago, I was in college.
Where'd you go to school?
2015, I graduated from San Jose State.
Oh, okay.
Broadcast journalism was my major. I minored in radio, television, and film. And then I moved home to LA. You don't start as a reporter in Los Angeles. You have to go somewhere else to earn your stripes. I will say that was 10 years ago. Now it's 2025, so maybe.
Well, but also even 10 years ago, where what they were teaching you in college for broadcast journalism, did it look like the way things were actually happening at the news station?
Kind of, but I would say I learned 95% of the things that I use now in my internship at NBC Bay Area.
Yeah, and internships are so important.
100%.
So, okay, carry on.
Yeah, so moved home, started at KABC, which is the ABC 7 in Glendale. I was a news assistant, which is essentially just an intern. And then I moved up to desk editor, which are the people who kind of, they're like the brains of the news operation. They're making the calls. They're sending out photographers and reporters. And there I was able to learn more about what news was and how it looked, local news especially. And then I would make a reel at that internship at that job. And that reel is where I was able to then go to Eureka, California, which is dang near Oregon. If you don't know, it's literally the middle of nowhere.
You know, it's so funny. When I was starting out in radio, there was this woman, her name's Whitney Allen, that was a mentor of mine. And I sent her my tape when I was like 15, 16 and asked her how she got started. She got started in Eureka, in radio, yeah.
Oh my God. No one ever says that. I'm shocked. Eureka was, gorgeous, location-wise, very pretty. There's, it's a lot of greenery, but it just wasn't a place that I wanted to stay. So I went from Eureka to Chico, our sister station. I was the bureau reporter there for the Reading kind of like flagship. And I was doing the same thing. I mean, the entire time I've been a multimedia journalist, which essentially means I'm a reporter, but I do it all. So I'm like, setting up the story. I pitch the story first to my producers. Then I set it up with, say I'm doing a story on FYI with Julie. I'm calling Julie, hey, can you do Tuesday at 10? Then I come here and I shoot you. And then there's somebody who told me, stop saying shoot.
No, I'm with you.
No, but every time I say it, because we all say shoot, like we're at a
fine.
shoot. Yeah,
but now I block out the haters.
She worked for the education system, so she has a point. But now I think of it every time I say that. I come to film you, and then I put it all together. I write the story, I edit the story, and then by 5:00, I'm ready to report on it live for the news. So I've always done that. That's MMJ, multimedia journalist. And I was doing that in Chico. Then I moved to Florida, Sarasota, Florida, which was nice, but it was far from home. Beautiful location again, but I was there for 2 years and then I was done. And I came home because I was tired. I got really burnt out. Traditional news is all doom and gloom. It's car accidents and shootings and knocking on the mom's door who literally just lost her son in the most horrific way. And I'm like, sticking a camera in her face, like, how do you feel? How do you think I feel? So I got super tired of doing that. It was a heavy feeling. So I was like, I'm done. I'm moving home, moved back home with my now husband, but moved in with him, didn't have a job, had started to talk to Spectrum. I heard about this news station. Spectrum's big in other areas, but it was just kind of getting started here in Los Angeles. And I had heard about it. I had heard that we did things differently, that they were really embedded in the community, that they really cared about people, and it wasn't breaking news. If we do breaking news, it's got to be like the Palisades fire or, the Eaton fire. And so I was like, I'm interested in that. Took a few months for me to get hired, but then I did. And I've been there for almost 5 years now.
I think it's so great though. And it actually made me emotional watching your reel, because I think that local matters so much and trusted sources matter so much. And it's like, it's really crazy as somebody that grew up working in radio. I think radio is really important. It just hasn't been treated very well for a while. No. And there's been so much consolidation that now a lot of those small cities like Stockton or Eureka just have one DJ that's piped in nationally. So the fact that broadcasters and journalists can still get their start in those smaller cities, I think is really powerful. As you were coming up and learning to do everything yourself, what was your personal relationship and kind of temperature when it came to the relationship you had to social media? It's really interesting, right? There's a broadcaster and a journalist, the way you do something for the news. And then there's the way that someone may report on a topic or put together a video for TikTok or Instagram. What was your relationship with social media like?
I think I can do better, especially now as the times are changing. I mean, everything is social media, really. And I think there needs to be a merging, because the storytelling can't just live on Spectrum. If you don't have Spectrum, then you're not seeing all the important information that we're trying to put out. So it's funny you asked, though, just yesterday or day before yesterday, we had a standards and practices kind of like newsroom-wide meeting to just ensure that all of the things that we are putting out, whether it be on TV or on our social media, even if we have personal platforms, is dead center. Because of that trust, we want to make sure that everybody, whether you're on the left or on the right, can turn on the TV and not be told what to feel or what to think, and not feel like our opinions as hosts, anchors, and reporters are being portrayed in the way that we're telling you these stories. And I really that's what I love about Spectrum, is that we do have this goal. But she was saying that means not liking specific things on your private page, because now Instagram shows you, Julie just liked, this post. It means not resharing certain things. Everything that's happening in the world, they reminded us we can have an opinion. We just cannot share that.
How do you, because I'm sure there's been a time, or has there been a time you reported on something you felt very strongly about, but like you had to turn off that emotion?
Yeah.
Like, will you share a story about that, or how do you even do that?
I mean, it's been ingrained in me for a really long time. I think it was hard to cover the local impacts of like the George Floyd movement because around that time, or even when I was in Chico's, when I really started to see it during the first, I think it was during the first Trump administration, there was a lot of hatred in the air and a shift almost. And so it was a little difficult in doing my job when I would be interviewing people. They would assume that I had certain biases, just, I think, by who I am. And there was a lot of hatred for the news, right? Fake news. So I would say that was probably the most challenging time. But other than that, for the most part, that's where I really excel, is I think that we all, regardless of what our beliefs are, we all have a reason for the things that we do believe. And I think that's the beauty. Like, our differences, if we can come to the table and talk about why we believe the things that we do, even if it differs from the person next to you, then let's just talk about it. I think if we can learn how to just talk about the many things that we are passionate about without pointing the finger and spreading hatred because you see it differently, then we'd be a lot better off.
Yeah, I agree. Talk about a day in the life, or maybe a week in the life of what you're covering. Because like I said, I enjoyed your reel so much. Talk about the depth of stories you're covering.
Yeah. Yesterday was crazy. I started with Kelvin as our morning anchor. So I started doing an intro for my piece about food insecurity. I was in Leimert Park. There's a cafe that's essentially got this grant funding from LA County to give out fresh produce because we know South LA is a food desert. They don't have access to that fresh food. So started there. We were talking about that, the grant funding. Then I went to Altadena and I was doing a story on mental health because Mental Health Awareness Month is May. And I was just telling you guys, I was talking to a 19-year-old who had attempted suicide 3 times. And she was on the other end of it, had gone through these programs that completely helped her get back up. But one thing she kept saying is that she felt so isolated and she didn't have anywhere to turn. And so these stories that I'm doing this month are really important because it really does shine a light on that and the need for connection and community, right? So then I went back to the station and I was doing a story about the impact of tariffs on working families with Giselle in our 5 p.m. show. And then I put the mental health piece together because that aired in our mental health special today. So that's like literally yesterday. And most days are very like, it runs the gamut.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, thanks. How sweet.
I just thought it was really interesting because I saw in your reel times that you'd anchored.
Yeah.
And times that you had to cover emergency events like the fire relief. And then I also saw human interest stories like what you did with Judge Armstead, who came here to FYI also. And then like goofy things where, they have you maybe out at the LA County Fair, like, I'm making this up, but like on a roller coaster 10 times in a row or something like that. Like, what's your favorite? And what do you think you're best at? Like, what do you really love leaning into?
I think human interest, just because I am such a human. I am so human. People keep telling me I need a brand. And the only thing I can think of is my heart is my brand because I can see when people are hurting. And I think the solutions journalism is what I'm most passionate about because I can tell stories that make a difference. So most of the stories that I tell do center those voices that are often overlooked. And we live in LA, so homelessness is a huge one. So I feel most fulfilled telling those stories, but human interest and when I'm having fun, I'm happiest.
Yeah. You're the most, your authentic self.
Yes.
Yeah. I want to encourage everyone, you can jump into the project with us and put questions for Taylor into the discussion. I'll be getting to those in just a second.
FYI is an AI-powered messenger and productivity platform crafted for creatives and their teams. Focus your ideas with your collaborators using an encrypted messenger, develop your vision, utilizing media-rich project tools, and bring those ideas to life by sharing them with the world. With the AI personas in the FYI app serving as your creative co-pilots, you can ask FYI AI to draft stories, song lyrics, product descriptions, marketing copy, or any written content and see the results within seconds. Download FYI today for free. Now available in the App Store and on Google Play.
Can we talk about the production process? As you're putting together these clips, again, I'm blown away by your skill set, that you're doing the talent booking, that you're conceptualizing the stories, you're writing the stories, you're broadcasting the stories, and you're producing and editing it. Yeah. That is insane. I think it says a lot, just for the moment we're in. Also, the capabilities of technology and stuff, that used to be 15 people's jobs. Yeah. And you're just doing it. What's the production process like for you?
Sometimes I wish it still was 15 jobs. Yeah. I'm a little tired, but it's great. I mean, I love having full control over the story, the product from start to finish. The days that are hardest, I think, are what we call day turns, which is why I was doing that food insecurity story. The day before yesterday, they gave me that assignment. LA County just announced that they give 31 nonprofit organizations this grant funding to help address food insecurity. I get that story at 9 a.m. and by 4 p.m. I have to be live with the full story done. So essentially, you have to be an expert on food insecurity in a very short amount of time. And so that's the biggest challenge, I would say, is getting the assignment that morning and then, going to this event where they're awarding these different nonprofits. That's where you meet somebody, you interview them. Then I'm, going back to the cafe, showing somebody who that first person impact, showing somebody who is struggling to find healthy food, because you always need that, and then editing it all together. So it's very cool because I do it all, believe it or not, from my phone, which is the biggest difference from Spectrum. I've never done that before. I worked at ABC 7 affiliates across the country before coming here, and they never had us do everything from our phone. But really, people are a lot less intimidated by the phone, which is really cool because when we did have that big camera, it gets a little nerve-wracking. But it helps me kind of get in, get out. I'm minimally invasive and people are a lot less.
Do you have a wingman with you helping you shoot, or are you just setting it up on the tripod yourself?
Yeah.
Amazing.
But when I go live, they do send a photographer. So.
And what editing software are you using?
Adobe Premiere.
Adobe Premiere. Wow. What about the pressure of fact-checking under such a short timeline and in a world where there is so much fake news, or the biggest broadcast outlets that exist aren't necessarily holding off until they have confirmed sources? People are just going with it. Like, what's your moral compass? How do you straddle the line between between the urgency and actually fact checking?
I mean, it's the most important part still for me. You cannot, I'd rather miss the deadline than have information that's incorrect. Yeah. That I'm not absolutely positive is true. So it's calling the sources. It's ensuring that the county, I did an interview in that story about food insecurity with the counties to get the facts, the who, what, when, where, why, how, so that we're not spreading misinformation, which we know is rampant in this day and age.
Yeah. Okay. Going into the discussion in FYI, who are some of the journalists and anchors that inspire you?
When I first started at ABC 7 locally, Leslie Sykes, who's a morning anchor there, I loved her presence, and I still do. I was able to watch her and learn from her a lot closer there when I was there than I can now. But she's captivating, and she has that kind of they always tell us they want a presence. And the camera can sometimes take away from that, which you might not expect. You kind of have to be more of yourself on camera than even in person. So I really liked how she was able to give you the facts, but also was able to really embody herself. And then David Muir, because he's really happening tonight. And I think that I could learn a little bit more from that because I'm a little bit more just me on camera, which, I don't know, take what you will from that. I think you're supposed to be a little bit more commanding, like David Muir. But he's somebody who I really aspire to be. Lester Holt, those types, who can really kind of command the entire news desk, especially when you're on the desk.
Getting people's attention.
Exactly.
I hear it. Is there anything that you are really hoping to cover currently that you haven't had a chance to shine a light on?
FYI.
Oh, yay! All right. If we want to do any interviews, I'm sure I can find some people that are available. Would you guys be down to do a little one-on-one with Taylor? Okay, great. How do you mentally prepare yourself to get on camera? That's a good question. I looked over and I saw the 3-camera shoot here happening. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah. On those day turns, I don't have a lot of time. My hair was like out here and I think I need at least 10 minutes before the 4 p.m. live shot time to like really just gather my thoughts, figure out what I'm going to say. It's like, you've seen the news. So it's like a one-liner. That's right, Giselle. This cafe I'm standing in front of, blah, blah, blah. It's not much, but I need a second to like breathe. I've been doing this thing recently that it's one thing to like take a deep breath in through your nose and out and that like, it's supposed to reset your nervous system. But if you do it and then take that extra little oomph at the end, so when you fill your lungs, that last little one I wasn't doing until recently, game changer. And so that resets because when you're like frantically putting the story together, your nervous system, the anxiety, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to make deadline. But in that 10 minutes, I make sure that I do a few of those. Like all it really takes is 3 and you're reset and you could be like locked in.
I mean, before I get to the next question, I just have to say again, we'll have to put it into the project. You'll have to watch this piece Taylor did on the Justice Care and Opportunities Department. And because I was so blown away, it was a 3-minute piece.
Yeah.
But you fit in somebody's entire life story, how they overcame the odds, what they triumphed against, and the organization that supported them, and interviewed the judge. And I was like, how'd she do this in 2 minutes and 43 seconds?
It's important to stuff as much as I can because people are giving you, their time. I don't have much time I take that interview and then I don't have a lot of time to put it together. But as much as I can, I will.
Interesting. Leah said, does it ever help to secure stories if community members, artists, publicists provide supplemental content?
Yes. Every story that I want to do or somebody tells me about, I have to pitch to my managers. And they always ask what visual components I'll have. Typically, though, they want us to shoot our own video. I can supplement. In cases like that story with the judge, there wasn't very many visuals that I had.
Yeah, you were like outside the courthouse. But we also were really appreciating that because you saw the person standing outside the courthouse, like looking up and pontificating apart. It was very dramatic. We really sat and digested this 3-minute piece.
Well, but I was sitting there like, okay, how can I write this? And that's how I approach every story is like, we had nothing. It's this incredible woman who had a very storied history, and she was now an attorney, but she had come from homelessness, and I literally couldn't really show any of that. So there was just the building, and you really can use whatever you have, and as long as there's something that means something to them. But that is why those visuals, because we are TV, are super important, and it's something they always ask me, what are we going to be able to see, and how does that complement the storytelling?
Taylor, I'm so impressed by what you're doing. I mean, have you ever considered directing or like short films?
I mean,
Is this around the corner for you?
I am a director because I'm literally like, look up at the building, you
are.
and then walk. And it's supposed to capture as much, like we're not trying to orchestrate anything that doesn't otherwise happen, but I essentially am directing.
It was emotional. That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's okay. I love it. Yeah. I love the storytelling aspect. So yes.
Okay, I'm going to get a couple more of these in. JT, I wanted to know, is there anything important going on you feel the public should know more about that's not being talked about enough? You're our trusted source.
I stay in the underserved communities as much as possible. I hear a lot of dialogue, even within my own family. A lot of judgment, I would say. I hope my dad doesn't kill me. He's a cop. And he has a very unique or specific viewpoint on certain things. And I would love for people to walk a mile in somebody's shoes before they judge. So I see a lot of cycles in underserved communities and opportunities and resources that are not allocated to these communities. And then a lot of judgment from people outside of communities saying, oh, you're just lazy, or you could do this if you wanted to. And from my reporting and my viewpoint and all the things that I've been able to see from really embedding in those communities, it's not a lack of desire to be in a mansion in Beverly Hills. It's a lack of resources and kind of just seeing the same things happen over and over, you know, whether that's incarceration or whatever it is. It really does perpetuate over and over if we don't break those and if we aren't intentional about breaking those cycles. So I'd love to have more conversation about that.
I think that's really important. You know, I always say the movie Boys in the Hood changed my life because I was like a little kid growing up in Seattle, and you thought that, you know, you hear the story of the American dream, and then you see that movie and how many lifestyle distractions or how much gray area. It's like they shot Ricky. And, you know, it really, I think that led me on a path to wanting to do the community work that I've done and really eye-opening. So I love all of that. Okay, I'm going to do the last question here, and then I'm going to sneak in one more. I never thought I would say this out loud. Mo wants to give a shout out to Edward Murrow. Oh, no, it was Kristen. Sorry. Kristen. I was looking over there in the corner. It was Kristen. So she said the fact checking is a lost art in today's world.
Yeah.
She wants to know, though, how do you handle security when you're doing investigative type reporting to ensure your safety when you're alone going out in the field? Good question.
Yeah. There's been a lot of things that have happened recently. The first thing that comes to mind are the protests on those campuses where they've been starting to send out security because it gets a little bit tense.
And sometimes are you way more afraid of security and the police than anybody else?
I don't know that it really helps.
Yeah.
Because I think we can break down some of that vitriol better than somebody else who's armed can.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's probably an unpopular opinion. I'm not saying anything against like sending security because I think it's great. But I am in these probably unsafe situations. My husband's like, what do you mean you're knocking on the serial killer's door? And I'm just like, whatever, you know, God's got me. I feel like maybe I could be safer, but I don't really have a full answer to that because I kind of am just like living
just gotta figure it out.
No, but I will say if I ever feel unsafe, I easily can just tell my newsroom and they'll always send somebody with me. So I'm just kind of bold, say a prayer and I go.
Well, don't be afraid to ask.
No,
you know?
exactly.
And like, look, there's probably a lot of people, like even from an intern level, that would love to shadow you. And, you know, safety in numbers. So good question, Kristen. Good question. You know, broadcasting has changed so much.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I was starting in radio, you had to like wait your turn to get a shift, and it might be 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. And you needed that pass to get your shot. And then there was an evolution where people would come into my office at the radio station asking for their first shift. And I'd say, YouTube says broadcast yourself. Just start doing shows.
Yeah.
And now 100%. It's really interesting how much investigative journalism is happening on social media. Like I think I follow every single one of those LA in a minute stories.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of people in this room that are really talented and have covered events or have their own social media channels going. What advice do you have for them? Where do you see the future of broadcast? And do you think it's possible for someone that starts out on socials doing that to cross over?
For sure. You are the future of broadcast. And that's really cool, I think. That's why I say it's 2025, because 10 years ago, you kind of had to go all over the country, earn your stripes, and then make it back to LA. There was no way around it. Now, because we're in this age of social media and there are so many people who are reporters just out in their communities, I see at least a lot in our newsrooms, a higher willingness to hire people who are just embedded in the community. There does need to be, because I do see a lot of noise and a lot of things, not saying that it's anybody in this room, but there's a lot of misinformation from people who aren't journalists, putting out just things that are based in opinion. So it would be like maybe just ensuring that we're continuing to fact check whatever it is that we're putting out. But other than that, I mean, I think a lot of the time, those vantage points, the people in the community that are just taking advantage of their phones and reporting are really, I think, putting a different perspective and putting a spotlight on stories that we wouldn't have otherwise seen. Mm-hmm. So I love that. That is the future. And that's what all of our stations are talking about. Mm-hmm. How do we become a part of that future? Because it is evolving. The news landscape is changing. Who's turning on Spectrum News?
A lot of people. I've heard so many people that talk about their TVs constantly reset to Spectrum. So they see your stories left and right.
Well, yes. But are they saying, I mean, I think you either love or hate that, because what she's talking about is a power on. So when you turn your TV on, if you have like Spectrum cable, it will literally go to Spectrum News, which is fantastic.
We got a lot of Spectrum people in the house. I look around, people are all in on that.
Well, that's good. And I think that our storytelling does capture audiences. That's what I've been told out in the field. But also, I think it's an incredible opportunity because we spend maybe 1,000 times more time on our phones than we do watching the news.
Yeah.
That is where the power is right now.
Right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your stories, your life, for working so hard, for connecting and caring about everybody at FYI. I know everybody here is going to want to talk to you. Yeah. So let's make some noise for Taylor.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Culture Fires podcast. Make sure to download the FYI app, available now in the App Store and Google Play. Check out this episode's notes for a project link to this Culture Fires event, including a look at more projects from the FYI community. This episode's Culture Fires event was produced by FYI co-founder will.i.am, Amina Mohammed, Emily Choi, Frankie Sandoval, Juliana Rodriguez, Jafet Chavez, Julie Pilat, Lily Cam, Marcus Nielsen Colling, Ronial Madlani, Sean Kantrowitz, Shania Jafari, the FYI product team, and of course the FYI community. The podcast is edited by Rob Van Vranken. Make sure to subscribe to Culture Fires wherever you get your podcasts so that you never miss an episode. Learn more about FYI by visiting fyi.fyi.